Hello and welcome to another episode of PodcastDX, the show that brings you interviews with people just like you whose lives were forever changed by a medical diagnosis. I'm Lita. Ron is not with us today.
And I'm Jean Marie.
Collectively, we're the hosts of PodcastDX. On today's show, we are speaking with Tarita Davenock, the CEO and founder of Travel for All. It's an accessible travel specialist company in British Columbia, Canada. Welcome to the show, Tarita.
Hello, Tarita.
Thank you.
And yeah, you're in one of my favorite places in the world, so I'm very jealous, but I'll get over it.
Come and visit anytime.
I will.
Oh, we will. We
yes.
will.
And we hear that, it's opening back up. So yeah, as soon as we can, we'll be over.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Tarita, I'm particularly curious, what led you to your decision to start an accessible travel company?
Well, life throws you curveballs. You have a choice to make. You either crawl under one of those rocks and live your life that way, or you take what's happened to you and you figure out what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was diagnosed with MS, I was a social worker. So I left social work probably about 4 years after my diagnosis because it was too difficult to be on the road all of the time. And I was in child protection, so I needed to find something less stressful.
Sure.
And I've always been a travel nut. So when I noticed that nobody was really addressing the issues that travelers with disabilities faced, I thought to myself, maybe this is something I should investigate. And that's really how it started, is there was a need, and I knew that nobody was really doing it. In Canada, we're the only agency
Wow.
that does what we do.
Wow.
And one of the very few in North America, actually, that does what we do. We help all abilities. So whether or not you have a invisible disability or a visible disability, we help everyone.
That's fantastic.
It's wonderful. And Tarita, how did your previous career in social work help you prepare for your current position?
In social work, your job is to come up with solutions.
Okay.
Solutions to what things are people are going through. Whoever was in my caseworker, whenever I had some challenge I had to help them with, you had to be on the ball. You had to really think about what's going to work. You had to be very, very, cross your T's and dot your I's. You had to be empathetic, knowledgeable, compassionate, dedicated. All of the things that an entrepreneur really has to do in order to succeed. So that's really what helped me to start the business. My knowledge of disabilities as well. I was actually a specialist with developmental disabilities. I worked with families that had children or a family member on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
So that's what I had actually studied quite a bit of. So that really helped me with acknowledging, realizing that this world was made for all of us. And it really actually angered me that we were being left out. It's nothing without us. It's really important for all of us to be included. And that's what helped me to reach the success that we are now 15 years later.
Right.
That's
right.
fantastic.
Now, I think if you remember when we tried to do this taping a bit back and we had equipment
Technical
problems.
issue, yeah.
Do you remember when I was telling you about the story where we were on a plane and a family with an autistic, it seemed to be an autistic son, was trying to board, and they were actually doing like a pre-boarding with him to try to get him comfortable with the flight, introducing him to the pilots. He actually got to go into the cockpit, introducing him to everyone. I guess we were boarded first because we were on first class, but we just sat there and watched, and we were amazed at the passionate the compassion and the patience that his family took with him to try to get him comfortable to get onto that plane. But then at the very end, when it was time to take off, he said no, he could not do it. And they let him and his father deplane, and they already had a backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
His father said, "That's okay. We got the car. We'll meet you there." And they got off, and everything was calm. But
it was a
wonderful experience.
Right.
It was a wonderful experience to observe.
Well, and also, I know here in Chicago we have the Museum of Science and Industry, and one of the big attractions is an actual airplane that is mounted inside of the museum, and people can go in there and like service dogs can practice backing into an aisle, and people can get comfortable and get a better understanding of flight mechanics and everything, if that's helpful for them as well. But Tarita, I had a question. Obviously your empathy, your work with other individuals with different challenges and finding solutions have all played into your role now as a travel specialist. But what other training have you received to work in accessible travel in that arena?
Well, when I was deciding to do this, I didn't want to go back to school. I had started my postdoctoral in behavioral psychology. So I didn't want to take a 6-month course.
Mm-hmm.
So I was fortunate that I worked at a travel agency and I learned on the job for 15 years.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
perfect.
Best way to do it.
Sure. It is.
There's no course, there's no book that teaches you hands-on. You need to really and I was immersed in learning how do I do this, and that's how I learned travel.
Okay. That's wonderful.
And Tarita, in the U.S. recently, on especially social media, and it also got a lot of attention in the news, there was a woman who was traveling with her wheelchair, and she was brought to tears because they had damaged her wheelchair when transporting it on and off the plane. And she was, trying to explain to the people at the gate how important that's a part of her, and that is her ability to, for locomotion. And it was a heart-wrenching video to watch. But luckily, it did bring that, the importance of wheelchair transportation to the forefront of everyone's mind. And I'm just wondering, what tips do you have for someone who is traveling with a wheelchair? And do you recommend that they have a rental wheelchair as a backup at their travel destination?
Wheelchairs, power wheelchairs are very, very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Any type of wheelchair is.
Mm-hmm.
So I always suggest to people, and it's unfortunate, but I cannot place all my bets that they're going to care for your wheelchair just as well as you would.
Mm-hmm.
When they're placing it in the
cargo
plane.
hold.
Yeah, in the cargo hold.
It's better for you
mm-hmm.
to rent a wheelchair
mm-hmm.
and then leave yours at home.
I agree.
I tell everybody, I've seen so many people that exactly experience what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
They've arrived at destination and something major has broken on their chair.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
And the understanding is that that particular chair is basically replacing their legs that do not work.
Right.
So it's so important for them. And a trip ends the moment that they cannot use the wheelchair. So it's better for you, rent one.
Okay.
That's what I advise, is rent one. The company that you rent your wheelchair from has insurance
mm-hmm.
that will cover things like wheels being broken or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
That way, if something does happen to that particular chair, we always have a backup. We always have lists of where to go, what to do. We can have another wheelchair to you within a few hours.
Okay.
Excellent.
That's
That's
wonderful.
really what we do.
That's excellent.
Yeah, and I know when I was still actively using a wheelchair on a day-to-day basis, and luckily, I shouldn't say luckily, but I am not at that stage right now, and hopefully, my fingers are crossed that I'm still going to be walking next year. But when I did have to use a wheelchair every day, traveling with it was extremely stressful, and I had to travel for medical appointments. And we tried everything. I mean, we had a specially made luggage to make it sure it was secure. We took it apart and put it back to. It was like one that would come apart into pieces, and we would actually, after a while, we ended up hand carrying some pieces on the plane because those got damaged. But I don't think people realize that your luggage and your wheelchair and your stroller and everything else that's going in that cargo hold is literally being physically thrown by a person from that conveyor belt or that carousel onto the plane, and then thrown again once inside the plane, and then everything's being stacked inside that plane by a person,
and there might be God knows how much weight
right
on top
above
of
it, or, crushing it.
Right.
So
it's all airlines have to train the cargo workers that this is how important this is, and train them how to care, how to load that, so that accidents and breakage does not happen. I mean, how many times have we heard about somebody suing an airline for the cost of the wheelchair, for pain and suffering, for emotional distress,
right,
for the fact that their trip was kiboshed? It's in their best interest to actually train their staff.
Sure.
Give everyone a day course about what to do. And you know what? If you do not do and follow the protocol, you lose your job.
Yeah.
It's got to be that way. It's got to be all or nothing. Because when you destroy somebody's wheelchair, you see it so many times on nowadays social media, Facebook, everything is opened up. Everybody is privy to what you're doing. You see them literally, like you said, pick up that chair and throw it.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Not a care in the world. They don't really care. It's just their job. They're off in half an hour.
Right.
They throw in that chair, and it really is sad. And I think that there has to be accommodation training.
Sure.
Right.
Well, we'll be looking on the lookout. Oh yeah.
Well, hopefully things will change.
Yes, and yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
right.
Hopefully.
And Tarita, this is
a big one.
This is the $1,000 question. How has COVID changed accessible travel for the last 18 months or so?
And how is it going to change the future of accessible travel as well?
Yeah.
The world is never going to be the same ever again after COVID. That's just fact, and that's the way it is.
Right.
And pre-COVID, we were exceptionally busy, and then all of a sudden, boom, everything came to a halt.
Right.
And then once in the U.S., predominantly, I'm using in the U.S. for a good example, because the U.S. really, when Biden was elected, boom, everybody was vaccinated. It was a rush. It was done. As soon as U.S. citizens had both of the vaccines, they had the bags packed. They were going somewhere.
Right.
So, you know what? You've been stuck in the house. You've not been able to go and enjoy and travel and spend time and socialize. And so we're busy. It's certainly now where people are wanting to travel. Okay. And they feel much safer because they have 2 vaccinations in them. For accessible travel, because it was such a specialized type of travel, they know that we're going to make sure that we customize everything for them. So if there's a destination that they're going to where there's a higher rate, and really it's not the wisest decision to go there, we'll tell them not to. And I have done that actually. I've had people say to me, I won't wear a mask. I don't agree with vaccinations. I won't do it. And I say to them, well, then you're going to be stuck at home. because you will not be able to do a safari if you're in one sort of Jeep vehicle altogether.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not masked up, you're not going.
Right.
So I think it's changed because now there's going to be some tougher stringent rules on traveling in general. Accessible travel is not going to decrease; it's still going to increase as people retire.
Mm-hmm.
And every few minutes, somebody is retiring, and with age, unfortunately, comes all of those aches and pains and parts that have to be replaced, and you don't travel the same anymore. You do need someone to accommodate what your specific requirements are, and that's really what it's all about. I don't believe that COVID has stopped people from wanting to travel. It may be for the first little bit they're wanting to stay closer to home. Some people kind of stay within the U.S., but we have people now that are wanting to travel to Switzerland as soon as Europe opened up. Boom, that's it, we want to go.
Okay.
Right. Well, they've had a lot of time to plan.
Right.
Well, you know what, exactly. That's exactly right. And save up money.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
They have all this money that they did not spend going anywhere for over a year. So it's sitting there waiting. That kitty is full.
Right. Tarita, what is your favorite vacation spot?
Oh my goodness me. Everybody asks me that. You know, my family's from the Fiji Islands.
Oh, okay.
So I love the South Pacific is a beautiful spot. I also love India. That's where my ancestral heritage is in India.
Okay.
And I love India.
Mm-hmm.
And I also love Paris. I mean, every morning you wake up and you smell the croissants. My gosh, you're getting a pound just waking up every morning.
Yeah.
Smelling the croissant. I love Paris. I love anywhere that you go has something to offer.
Sure.
And it's meeting the people, sitting down with them, having a meal, getting to know them, learning about their culture. It's amazing. I think I don't have a place that I don't like. The places that I like more would be the South Pacific and Europe.
Okay.
So pretty much half of the world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's good.
We're right there with
That's
you.
Good.
And Tarita, what are some of the most common challenges individuals living with disabilities face when traveling?
If they decide that they're going to plan this trip all by themselves, and they go online and they take a look at a traditional website. I'm not going to name companies, but the large companies, you go and book a hotel, book a vacation, and it tells you, oh, yes, this is accessible. You show up, and it's not.
Right.
The bed's way too high. There's no way that you can transfer onto the bed. There's not a roll-in shower. Or we've had people say that the door was not wide enough. They could not get the wheelchair through the door. So these are things that happen. So really, if you're going to do this on your own, if you don't want to call up us or another agency who does what we do, research. Pick up the phone and ask for measurements of the door. Ask, do they have a roll-in shower? Ask for pictures. You're going to be spending your money. You want to know the facts of that particular hotel or that particular destination. It's not. Don't always believe what you read because it's not totally factual.
I agree. I agree.
We've had our
right. We've noticed that as well. And one thing that I remember, I don't remember a lot, but I do remember when traveling in Italy, weren't the rooms really, really small?
Okay, one of our rooms.
Okay.
Because we ended up, I think we I don't know why, but we ended up staying an extra day at a hotel. And it wasn't part of our reservation or something. And they ended up putting us like basically in a closet where the bathroom was so small that when you had to wash your hands while still sitting on the potty because there wasn't enough room to get up and wash your hands. It was a weird exception.
It was kind of like
It was
it was like an airplane toilet.
It was smaller, much smaller than an airplane
yeah.
toilet. And they had basically rolled 3 roll-away beds into that room for us. So, yeah, that was an issue. Once again, traveling without an agent.
Yeah.
And we didn't realize that we were flying out the next day. And we had no hotel reservations. And the hotel was kind enough to put us in that closet, because otherwise we would have been sleeping at the airport.
Well, thank you very much for putting us in the closet next to the room.
Right. Yeah. We're flexible.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was 3 generations.
If you're visiting a place like Rome, so many of those buildings are heritage buildings.
Right. Yes, right.
They didn't have any idea what wheelchair accessibility was about.
Right.
Was not even in the makeup when they were building that.
Right.
And so they leave it as it is and try to make a few little changes so that it can be accessible.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, it's not going to work. For myself, I'm fortunate that I can still walk around the house using my walker that I call my Ferrari. But when I leave the home, I have to use a wheelchair.
Right.
So I need to make sure that where I go is completely accessible for me.
Right.
You know what? It's lots of times I've gone places and especially in showers, I find the shower situation, sometimes I just laugh.
Mm-hmm.
The shower itself is miles away from where I am when you're in that rolling shower.
Right.
Or they have the handheld shower, but it's so high.
Yeah.
How are you going
How do you
to
reach it?
Right.
Now, I'm fortunate that I could stand up and reach it. But if you are paralyzed, how would you get that?
Yeah.
Right.
You'd have to have somebody with you, your spouse or your travel companion, come in, take that thing off and hand it to you so you can shower.
Right.
There's no common sense when you make it. There's really no common sense at all. And that's unfortunately one of the facts. So you have to investigate. You've got to ask questions. If you want to do this on your own, all the power to you, but be smart and phone up the hotel. And the hotels will tell you, oh, our room, no, we don't have a roll-in shower. In fact, they don't even know what a roll-in shower is. I had a good chuckle the other day. I was talking to an actual travel company, and I said, is there a roll-in shower? And she says to me, I don't think that there are any showers that are on wheels.
So she thought it was a rolling shower.
Wow.
That would be fun.
Instead of rolling shower, so she took it literally.
Yes.
Right.
Wow.
But I wasn't surprised. That was the sad part of it. I had a good chuckle.
Oh.
I wasn't surprised because unfortunately, the travel industry doesn't know anything about this type of travel.
Okay.
Okay.
Really
Well,
don't.
hopefully things will change.
Yeah.
Hopefully they will.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
What about multi-generational families? You know, like let's say I'm going to go to Ireland with my grandkids and my kids. I'm a little bit slower and a little bit banged up, but my grandkids, they want to run. How do you handle it when you've got a multi-generational family and somebody has a disability in there?
You know, there's so many different options, and the thing is that lots of times we had this actually for family that wanted to go to Scotland.
Okay.
And they asked the same question. You know, there's some of us that are going that are older, walk a lot slower, and then we've got our grandchildren that can run miles an hour. They're not going to be interested in what we want to do. So how do we make this work?
Right.
You had excursions. So let's say that the older people go and sit and learn how to make scotch and taste scotch.
Okay.
And the younger generation goes to see a play or a theater or something that is local, that's more upbeat.
Okay.
Or they go to a nightclub,
Mm-hmm.
they go and do something that's more age appropriate.
Okay.
You always, in families traveling together as a group, that you run into that, where you want to make sure that you're not having your teenagers bored to bits because sitting there listening to a lecture that they really don't care about, that you want to learn all about art history.
Mm-hmm.
they're 14. They don't want to know that. They want to go and listen to a band.
Right.
That's playing. So we have suppliers that we use. We have over 1,000 suppliers. So the suppliers that we use, we make sure that we let them know. Mom and Pa want to do this. Grandma and Grandpa want to do this, and the kids we want to do this.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And we have tours that will work for each of them.
Good.
That's wonderful.
That's
yeah.
great.
So everybody gets the
Kind of
trip
like
they want.
kind of like on a cruise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's something for everybody.
And everybody can then get together at a meal
Right,
and
right.
Catch up and learn
And
about
and
everyone
tell-
else's day.
Yes, I
Oh,
like
wonderful.
that. I like that.
Tarita, I have a question for you. What is your favorite or go-to accessible travel destination?
Like what would be the
Yeah,
most
most
accessible?
accessible, yes.
Yeah, what would be the most accessible destination?
Germany
Okay.
would probably be on my list. Germany has done, Europe in general, has done a really bang-up job with creating accessibility for people. If you look and you see hotel chains over there,
Mhm.
they decided that they would spend a whole bunch of money and put in some wheelchair accessible rooms. Like the Scandic Hotel chains is the one I'm speaking of.
Okay.
They spent all this money and a good chunk of money. They recouped that money within a year
Sure.
with all the people that were coming now that it was accessible.
Mhm.
But Europe, I think, is way ahead of us. I mean, I look at Canada. We've just actually created a law for people with disabilities 2 years ago.
Oh.
So we didn't have an ADA.
Okay.
So 2 years ago, they finally came into law. But still, I'm on one of the boards in my town, which is trying to learn about accessibility. And so I decided that I was going to take my scooter or my wheel and go downtown. What a nightmare. I ran into potholes and that got stuck in. Or on the different stores and things had things outside on the sidewalk.
Right.
That their wares, they had displays and they had clothing and they had this and they had
Mhm.
that. Well, that stopped me from going through that way.
Mhm.
Right.
So it is common sense is lacking in a lot of places, unfortunately. And there was England actually probably up 3 years ago, created this movement called the Purple Pound. And what that was it was all about helping people with disabilities to spend money. And so they would have signs that would say, look, help us spend our money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing here. If I want to go in to buy a candle for a girlfriend for her birthday,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one of my favorite stores, I can't get into the bloody place. It's so packed full
Mm-hmm.
of, they've got baskets full of candles and soaps and what have you. They blocked me to get in there. And I mean, that's just me using a walker. Somebody using a cane, same thing. You're going to trip, you're going to fall. It just, make it, you want me to spend my money here, then make it usable for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they have seniors days all the time. They have these, if you go shopping on a Wednesday, you save 15% on it, seniors day. We need to have an access day.
Oh,
Where
that's a
people
nice
with
idea.
disabilities
Mm-hmm.
can get in there, and the stores themselves have moved things out of the way, made it more accessible, give people with disabilities a discount, and call it access day, and away you go.
That's a great idea. Accessible day, and
I
this
like
way
that.
people could see how their store or their business works with some, with different challenges
Sure.
involved. Yeah.
Sure.
Exactly. Just make it access day, and that includes everybody.
Right.
Seniors,
Right.
people with disabilities, moms that have children that they're
Sure.
pushing prams,
Right.
strollers. It includes everyone. So
Right.
just access day, as underneath that umbrella includes everybody.
I like it.
That doesn't get into that store because of the fact that it was packed full.
Right. Yeah. Universal planning for businesses. This way it's universally accessible.
Right.
It would be better, right?
Yep.
Tarita, what do you think is the most important, well, maybe a couple of most important items to take with you when you're traveling?
In your go bag or your carry-on.
Like your carry-on bag. What do you think that you absolutely...
Your medications.
Medications.
Always take your medications. Don't ever put them in your suitcase.
Okay.
Medications need to be with you.
Okay.
Your itinerary, the phone numbers, the people that you're supposed to call.
Okay.
All of those things you have to have with you.
Okay.
All your medications, and always have when you travel, and the people that use a lot of different medications, have your doctor's phone number, have the list of your prescriptions, so that if for some reason you seem to drop all of your pills, which I've done before,
Okay.
all on the floor,
Oh, yeah.
now you need to have a refill, but you're in a totally different part of the world.
Mhm.
Right.
You have your list of medications, your doctor's phone number. Life's a lot easier. You can probably get that prescription filled.
Okay.
Okay. That's
Good advice.
Yes,
Great advice.
And Tarita, what is your view on travel insurance?
Travel insurance is very, very important. I mean, you insure your house, because it is something that you want to make sure that if something terrible happens, a flood, whatever. I mean, acts of God are always covered, but insurance, anything can happen. Before you leave home, you become ill, somebody in your family becomes ill, and you have to cancel your trip. You need to have some insurance to get that money back. Or if your flight's delayed and you miss the next flight, and that next flight is going to connect you with the tour that you're booked on,
Oh, yeah.
you need some insurance.
Right.
And then if you missed your cruise ship because of flight delays, and you now have to pay to get to the first next stop, the next port of call,
wow.
you have to have insurance.
Right.
Wow, yeah.
And that's just before you leave. You're not even left, and you haven't even made it to where you're supposed to go to yet.
Yeah.
And so all those things have to be included. And then when you're away, same thing. If you get word that somebody's become ill back home, you want to go home. Well, who's going to cover the cost of your trip,
Right.
flights back?
Okay.
And not just that, but this has happened on day 2 of your 20-day trip.
Oh, yeah.
Who's going to pay you for the rest of that time that you've already paid for? You need insurance. You arrive, but your luggage doesn't. So you've got to go and buy some knickers because you don't have it.
I that's happened.
Yes.
That's insurance.
On a trip to Greece,
Yep.
my nanny lost all of her luggage with lost, and she had to buy a whole new wardrobe.
Horror stories of things, and
Mhm.
you need to have insurance. It's not. Why would you risk anything? You've got to think that you hope for the best, but plan for the worst.
Right.
Right.
And I didn't mean to sound very entitled by saying that. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Tarita, this is kind of a strange question, but what if I wanted to travel, but I know that I'm going to need assistance once I get to my spot? What do I do? You said call in advance, but like...
Are there helpers or medical aids?
Our suppliers are, because of the fact that we are working in this demographic,
Right.
we have carriers at locations.
Oh,
fantastic.
If you need a nurse,
Mm-hmm.
or if you just need somebody to be there to help you with showering or bathing, not any really pertinent care like wound care or anything like that.
Okay.
We have all those things that we can plan for you at destination and before you travel as well. If you're traveling, you need to have a nurse with you. We can arrange that as well.
Oh, wow.
So there's everything available for people. There's really no reason to not go somewhere. If you hear somebody says, well, I'm on dialysis, I can't go anywhere. We have the list of dialysis clinics all over the world.
Oh,
That's
that's wonderful.
So yes, you can. It's just a matter of making sure that you're dealing with somebody who can accommodate your needs.
Right.
That's
okay.
great.
That's fantastic.
And what is the best travel advice you have ever gotten?
The best travel advice I've ever gotten is to make sure that when I go to a location, I don't just see all of the grand places that are very touristy spots, because I'm not always really truly seeing the destination. When years ago, the first time that I went to India, and I was staying at a 5-star hotel, and everything we saw was very luxurious. And so my uncle said to me, I'm going to really show you India. We got in the car and he took me down to the shanty towns. And he took me to some places where people were just sitting around talking, and he said, go and sit and talk to them. That's the India. That's the India that you should also learn about, not the India that is westernized and that is a lot more expensive. So immerse yourself. The best advice is immerse yourself in where you are. Dine with the locals. Sit down and have a beer with somebody in Germany and talk to them. Or in Ireland, really chat with that person. Learn about what do they do for a living. What do the families do? Learn about them, because that is not something that you're going to see in a brochure.
You're right. Or a travel, or you could watch a travel movie.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
If you really want to get something out of it, you've got to get down deep and personal with the people.
Right. Because otherwise, you might as well be at home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. I have a question, Tarita. What does the future of accessible travel look like? And what do you hope it looks like?
The future of accessible travel is staggeringly high.
Okay.
Trillions of dollars, not millions, trillions of dollars is sitting there available. People with disabilities we don't have to have this adage that if you are disabled, you're poor. Lots of people with disabilities are poor. Lots of people that don't have disabilities are poor. So doesn't make any sense to say, well, they don't travel. They do travel. And they have money and they want to go places. So the baby boomers, who, as I was saying, fit into our demographic, they don't like to be considered disabled. So with my company, we always say it'd be customized vacations for people with specific requirements. That includes everybody. You're not just saying that you have to have a wheelchair for us to book travel with you. No, it's everyone. And it is staggeringly high because we're living longer, and with age becomes some sort of physical, you don't see her as well or hear as well, and there's ailments. Let's just face it. As we get older, things do not work as well. So you're still going to travel.
Sure.
You still have the money, the baby boomers especially. These are trillions of dollars, and it's increasing. We're not going to decrease, we're going to increase. The age, I think it's every 3 minutes, somebody retires.
Oh, wow.
And it's huge. It's staggering. So I think that it is the missing market that people, travel agencies, or the travel industry in general, really doesn't pay any attention to.
Okay.
And you're missing the big ticket item when you ignore this demographic.
Sure. And I guess if places, locations like here in Chicago, if we make everything more accessible and universal, then
people will be able to
come here, and then even people that have lived here all their lives, it'll be easier for everyone involved. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I like the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was talking to someone, and they always wanted to go to Venice, and they, it's a romantic city. So they said, "Oh, I wanted to go so badly. I wanted to do a gondola ride, but I'm in a wheelchair." And I said, "Well, you can do a gondola ride. There actually is a company that now is created the gondolas that you can actually roll in. It's a fancy little mechanism.
Nice.
And you're placed in this gondola, and you can take this trip in a gondola. So it's amazing what's being done. Anything you want to do is doable. It's just It's a matter of finding the right places, the right people to talk to, and really, I think educating yourself. This person knew nothing about the fact that there's a company in Venice that
Mm-hmm.
did this.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else asked me, they'd always dreamed doing a balloon ride.
Okay.
They were in a wheelchair. And I said, well, there's companies that actually have the baskets that have a
Mm-hmm.
slit that open up and you can roll into. They didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
So don't assume that it's not out there.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of smart people that are realizing this demographic is huge and they're accommodating it. And
Right.
they've opened up businesses.
Right. Yeah. If
Sure.
you're
Right, like Ron, one of our co-hosts, who's not with us today, he is vice president of a group called Dive Heart, and they take people with different disabilities scuba diving
Yes.
all over the world.
right, because if you're dreaming of it, chances are there's somebody
Somebody
else is dreaming of it
it.
too.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And
Right.
when you're in the water, you're weightless.
Right.
Yep.
And that can be very nice for everyone.
Okay, so now we're going to go on to the tips, hints, and tricks lightning round segment of the show.
Like a game show.
Yes, sort of like.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's 10 questions, Tarita,
Right.
and it's a lightning round, so it's just going to be right off the cuff, whatever comes to your mind. Are you
Did
ready?
she win a new car?
No, you just get points.
Okay.
And are we getting gifts? Or
Yeah, you might get a
chocolate or
gift.
wine
I've
or-
got some.
She has
actually,
something she can send
I
you.
do have something I'm going to send you.
Yes.
I do have something I'm going to send you. I got to get your address when we're done. Okay, you ready?
Go.
Why is travel important to you?
Travel is important to me because it teaches me something.
Okay.
Good answer, 10 points. And what makes traveling easier during COVID?
People have become more serious about being clean, disinfecting, making sure everything is sterilized, it's safer. People are well informed. It's there's more attention paid to everything.
Good answer.
Wonderful.
10 points. And
Mhm.
what is your go-to travel guide?
My go-to travel guide would probably be my friend Martin Heng, who used to be the accessible travel manager at the Lonely Planet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He has a list of every single destination and all of the accessible suppliers, and that's my go-to guide.
Excellent. 10 points for that one.
Take with you is to have
All right.
that list.
Yes, I was actually really impressed at the Lonely Planet's disability guide. I was shocked at how concise it was.
Detailed.
Yes, very detailed.
Right.
The fellow's name is Martin Heng.
Okay.
Martin had been a reporter with the Lonely Planet for years. And on his way to work one day, he used to ride his bike and he was hit by a car
Oh.
Oh,
and became a paraplegic.
okay.
And that's when he started to investigate. And then, therefore, this segment of the Lonely Planet opened up because he created it.
He's
Excellent.
done a wonderful job.
Excellent, yes. Okay, next question. Do you have any tricks for dealing with TSA in airports?
Or I guess other countries' version of TSA.
Yeah, like the security checkpoints.
security and customs.
Always be calm. When you're going through security and customs, be calm.
Okay.
Don't look suspicious because then they're going to really pull you aside. Just answer the questions, be calm, and they're not out there to get you. They just want to make sure that you're not going to cause harm in their country.
There you go. Good answer. What do you always bring with you to the airport?
To the airport, I always bring with me my phone list for everybody.
Okay.
When I'm traveling, I make sure that I have hotel phone number, my emergency contact, who do I talk to with the tour company, names, phone numbers. I make sure that I have all of that with me before I go. So good to be sitting at home. And you always have a photocopy of your passport.
Okay.
Good
Yeah,
answer.
Wonderful advice.
What do you use as a distraction during long waits in the airport?
I talk. That's what I do. I talk. everybody who's sitting around me is going to know my life story.
They'll know you very well by the end of the wait.
That's my distraction is to be social.
I'm with you.
Or book. I mean, I'm not. I will get to because everybody else around me is frustrated. So let's all talk about life in general.
I'm with you. Good answer. How do you work through pain flares? So when you you're traveling and all of a sudden you got a really bad pain, what do you do?
MS, I live with pain daily. And when I travel, and if I'm having some pain and I'll get spasms in my lower back, my spinal cord. I know if you expect it that it's going to be there, and I always make sure that I have medication or I have topical cream like to put on my lower back.
Okay.
Or something like, A535, something that can help me get through that.
A what?
A535.
I don't know what that is.
Just medicated cream.
Oh, okay.
Absorbi Junior, one of those types of brands that actually has the medication in there that heats and cools.
Oh, got it. Okay. Give us 3 of your favorite recreational pursuits.
3 of my favorite recreational pursuits would probably be, with having MS, my recreational pursuit is I love to go and participate in their local sports. There's lots of places that have wheelchair tennis, wheelchair basketball. You can do anything in a wheelchair.
Right.
So wheelchair dancing as well.
Okay. Dancing, sports, and what else? One more.
Dancing, sports, and I would probably say something a little adventurous. I've always wanted to skydive. And I've always wanted to dive with the sharks in a shark cage.
Okay.
And you can do that in a wheelchair.
Bold.
Yes.
Bold. All right. Excellent. Tarita, what animal best reflects your personality?
Sorry about this.
And my husband says it's a badger.
Okay. I love it. 10 points.
Sorry.
10 points. I love it. Last question. What do you do to treat yourself?
I love flowers and I love scents. I love aromatherapy. I will treat myself with a new oil that goes in my diffuser.
Okay.
Or some flowers, something to make the house smell nice. Or it's funny how you smell something and your whole mood changes.
Yes.
When I smell roses, I'm happy. It makes me come alive.
Very nice.
So aromatherapy is what I treat myself with. I have so many oils, and I'll make oils that are for massage, and I have all different scents.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
Well, we have a winner, and yes, you will be getting a prize. I need to get your address when we're off the air.
Yeah.
Tarita, how can our listeners learn more about you and Travel for All, your company?
Best thing for them to do is to take a look at our website.
Okay.
And it is travel-for-all.com, or just pick up the phone and give us a call, and it's 1-888-993-9295.
Okay.
And one of the team members is here. If you don't even plan on traveling for 2 years, but you want someone to talk to about your plans, call us. We'd love to hear from you.
Excellent.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, I think that wraps up this episode. And thank you so much, Tarita, for talking with us and giving us some wonderful advice and information. We've had a pleasure speaking with you.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
It was wonderful, and I'm so glad to have met you all, and I applaud you sharing how to get through things that happen in life, those awful rocks in the road that change life.
Right. It is hard, but it's
great. Talk about it. That's
right.
important.
Yes, exactly. Share your story,
and you're not alone.
And you're not alone. There are other people out there just like you, and we're going to help you.
And we'll be giving you a call when we start looking for houses out by you.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Because that's going to be one of our first trips.
Absolutely will.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Tarita. And
I appreciate you having me.
Thank you.
If our listeners have any questions or comments related to today's show, they can contact us at PodcastDX@yahoo.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram.
And if you have a moment to spare, please give us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. As always, please keep in mind that this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. And always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regime. And never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast.
Till next week.